Welcome to the Life After Sugar podcast, the podcast that's not just about sugar, but about your relationship with it, and also with food, and especially with yourself. So if you want to discover your life after sugar and hear inspiring stories from all kinds of people who also cut out sugar in their way, at their pace, for their own reasons, this is the podcast for you. Because when you take away the sugar, you can finally discover the real sweetness in your life. I'm your host, Netta Gorman. And just before we get to today's episode, I'd like to tell you about some free resources that you can get to help you break free from sugar cravings and stop emotional eating. Because if you have all the best intentions to reduce or cut sugar, but cravings are making you fall off the wagon, then go to the podcast description along with this episode and click on the link to download your 5 tips to start getting rid of cravings, and also to do the cravings quiz so that you can become more aware of what triggers your cravings. Those 2 free resources are in the podcast description along with this episode. You can also find them on aftersugarclub.com. And come on over to find me on social media. Check out the Life After Sugar Facebook page and subscribe to the Life After Sugar YouTube channel, as well as my Instagram account at My Life After Sugar, so that you can see that it's perfectly possible to live a happy and active life even if you don't eat sugar. Okay, so in today's episode, I'm talking with Christine, who spent decades feeling shame about her yo-yo dieting and sitting on the sidelines of life instead of living her life. For 30 years, Christine struggled with morbid obesity before she discovered that healing her body, mind, and spirit was the missing piece. Today, Christine helps Christian women break free from sugar addiction through her sugar-free method. So let's get to my chat with Christine. All right, well, I'm here today with Christine. And Christine, can you tell us a little bit about where you grew up, how you grew up, and what you ate as a child?
Thanks for having me, Netta. I'm so happy to be here. Yes, I grew up in my hometown that I still live in, to believe it or not. I'm in Southeast Michigan in the United States. So I grew up with the standard westernized American diet. We call it SAD, Standard American Diet. SAD stands for that. And so I grew up in a family that was, my parents took me to church. I was very active with my friends in my youth group. I played softball. I did all the things. But now when I look back on my childhood in regards to my sugar habits and behaviors, I can see that, my mom struggled with her weight and dieted a lot. But we always had things in the house like the Little Debbie snack cakes. If you're not familiar with those are like little Swiss cake rolls that are a chocolate cake, a cream filling, and a chocolate coating. And I had a very meticulous way of eating those. I would nibble off the chocolate coating, unroll it, lick the cream, and then eat the cake.
Okay.
And those were that was the childhood treat that I was often stealing from the cupboard, trying to eat all of them before my brothers could get access to them, and so when I look back, I can see like that's where my food behaviors began, with that comforting and soothing. And I can't even really identify like exactly why I did that, other than the fact that I had a certain period of my childhood that I was chubby and I was bullied, called chunky and chubby. And I think that just, I know that hurt. I mean, it's still, I process it now. I wrote about it in my book. I know that hurt really deeply. I still know the names of the boys that did that to me because I still live in my hometown. But yeah, so that's a little bit about my history. I did thin out a little bit in high school. I think it was because I was so active physically with some sports and just riding my bike around town all the time. But yeah, there was definitely an early development of some of my sugar habits for sure.
Okay. Yeah. And I mean, what you just described as treats, did you have the impression that was just normal food?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, it was always in our cupboard. So it's just part of the standard diet that we had. And, I think that I don't blame my mom for any of this. It just, that was the age of convenience foods, and, not so much home cooking. Well, my mom home cooked all the time. She was a stay-at-home mom. But the food manufacturers made it much more convenient for her to throw dinners together. And so,
Hmm.
we had the prepared boxes of pasta and prepared boxes of rice and all the things like that that were added to our diet on top of like the whole foods that she was, feeding us too. But yeah, it was just became convenient. And I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and that was really the time where a lot of women were returning to work. And so convenience foods were just really convenient,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, totally. Very understandable.
Yes.
And how did you feel about yourself when you were, air quotes, chunky, overweight, or all the words?
Oh, yeah, I was very insecure. I also happened to develop and go through some early puberty. So I was like one of the first developed girls in my grade. And so that was another thing that I was teased about also. And, it gave me, as I went through my health and healing journey, it gave me a complete new appreciation and an understanding. And I was able to write about how now I am treated much differently in society as a thinner person than I was as in that chunky childhood or in my
Mhm.
morbid obesity as an adult. So yeah, it was not a comfortable place to be through, but I'm glad I've had to go through all of that to experience that, to grow and help my emotional maturity. But yeah, as a child, I was very insecure. Never felt like I fit in anywhere.
Yeah, yeah, understandable.
Yes.
You said you slimmed down or thinned out during your high school years, and then after that, did you put on more weight?
Yes, I went away to college when I was 18, and so I lived in a dormitory that had a cafeteria. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with this saying because this is very popular in the States, but typically when girls go off to college their freshman year, they gain 15 pounds. So they call it the freshman 15.
Uh-huh.
Well, unfortunately, I probably came home to the best of my memory with the freshman 40.
Well,
So I gained a lot of weight during my freshman year, and I think it was the combination of the cafeteria food and the emotional coping that I was trying to do being away from home, being a freshman, being away from home, and just adjusting to a new way of living and stepping out into adulthood. So, and then I realize now looking back too that that's when my carbohydrate intolerance began, most likely, because the cafeteria food was very high in carbohydrates, standard American diet. So, yeah, it was not a, I remember coming home after that freshman year of college in the summer to put on some of my clothes that I had stored here at home and just being absolutely devastated that I needed a completely new summer wardrobe. So it was not a great time in my memory, but that's when it started. That's when the obesity started.
uh-huh. And did you put on more weight after that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yes. I eventually got up to 230 pounds. So that's, on a 5'1" frame, that is considered morbid obesity. And that was just a result of decades of yo-yo dieting, 30 years of yo-yo dieting, trying every man-made diet under the sun, Weight Watchers, medical weight loss clinic. And Netta, I actually did for 10 months. I drank nothing but liquid protein shakes through
Well,
a hospital supervised program.
uh-huh.
I did lose like 65 pounds at that time, but when
Wow.
they put me back on their maintenance plan of whole foods, I was eating like a half a baked potato or a sweet potato and whole wheat bread and whole wheat pasta. And despite not cheating once in that whole 10 months of drinking the liquid shakes and being very adherent to their new food plan, my weight started coming back on. And it was devastating. It was soul crushing. So, as a result of that, I gave up again for a while and eventually regained that 65 pounds plus plenty more.
Mm.
The 230 pounds that I maxed out at that I know of, I might have been higher, but I just remember a particular time on the scale. I didn't weigh myself a lot then, but that 230 pounds was more than I ever weighed during both of my pregnancies. So it was just an accumulation year after year of piling up and not understanding how insulin resistant I was. I
Hmm.
remember in that hospital program, the doctors telling me I had metabolic dysfunction, but
Hmm.
they never explained the role of insulin in my life or what it was doing to my metabolic health. It was just keep drinking the shakes, and when you get back on food, you still need to eat less and move more,
Yeah.
just standard dietary advice. So yeah, I definitely did struggle with obesity for 30 years.
And it feels like, even with hospital-led diets, which really that's, I guess, what it was with the shakes, that that's what you were saying, that the missing piece is that nobody explains human biology to
Right.
you. The role of
Yeah.
insulin, is one part of it. But as you were saying, they say, do this or don't do that, eat this, don't eat that. But we as consumers slash patients, we don't know why. And I'm wondering whether even the doctors know why.
Yeah. Oh, I can tell you for sure. What's interesting is one of the doctors in that program, I absolutely adored her at the time. She was very kind and compassionate, and I needed that in my life.
Sure.
She actually went on to get certified in functional medicine and moved to an integrative medicine facility office in my hospital system. And so I was able to reconnect with her 10 years later. And we had such great conversations about what was lacking in the hospital program that I did, the weight loss program that I did. And now she actually helped me so much in healing my metabolic health through my functional medicine. So yeah, I think that the doctor has to take a particular interest in it. And then I've been very fortunate to find doctors that are supportive of my sugar-free lifestyle now. So they are out there, but standard advice, yeah, I think it's lacking.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems that way from the people I've talked to on this podcast and the people I
Yes.
help. And so, how did it go from you being at 230 pounds and discouraged and all the things to actually finding what works for you, not just for weight loss, but for your whole life?
Yeah, my whole life completely flipped upside down. And it started one afternoon. The turning back moment, taking control of my health, started on the side of a mountain in Colorado. I was there because we were celebrating our 25th anniversary, and my husband planned some hikes. And I thought I could do this hike because the trail marker only said a half a mile. But halfway up that trail, I had to stop. I was gasping for air. My knee was aching. I could not go another step. I told my husband to go on without me. And so I sat there for quite a long time and waiting for him to come back, and really just had a turning point conversation in my mind. I thought the other hikers were looking at me saying, well, if she would just eat more and or eat less and move more, she wouldn't have to sit there and wait. So it was a really low moment in my life, but I also remember just uttering a single prayer to God that I just want to feel better. Like
Mm.
I just want to stop. I sat on the sidelines of life a lot. Like when my
Mm.
family was active, I was sitting in a lawn chair watching, not participating. But something shifted in my heart in that moment. And I came home from that trip to Colorado back to Michigan, and I had something settle on my heart that knew I could not go on like this. It's like no plan B. I have to do something. And the first thing I did was something I put off for many years. I knew I needed a sleep study. I did not want a CPAP machine, but I called that Monday morning we got back. I got the study, I got my CPAP machine, I started sleeping better, and that was really the first medical intervention that set me on my way. And then very shortly after that, I was diagnosed with fatty liver disease due to my diet. And that's really what sparked the key in me to figure out, like, okay, what's my next step? I started doing a lot of research about hormones. I learned about insulin resistance and why my liver was full of fat. I saw just one short phrase on a website that said, sugar dysregulates your hormones, and that really just really sent me down rabbit holes. And the thing that ultimately changed the trajectory of my journey is when I heard Dr. Fung, who you're probably familiar with.
Jason
I
Fung.
watched it. Yeah, yeah, Dr. Jason Fung. I watched a short 5-part video series that he has on the Diet Doctor website, and he just looked in the camera and he said, "This is not your fault."
Mm.
And that like blew my mind, broke my heart, put tears in my eyes. I'm like, I still get teary-eyed when I talk about this, but
Yeah.
really that allowed me to drop the shame of 30 years of obesity. And he taught me so much in that show. I mean, that video series was probably a total of 30 minutes, and it changed my life
Wow.
because now I know what insulin resistance is. I know what sugar's doing to my health. And that was when I heard him say those words, that was the last day I ate bread, potato, pasta, whole wheat bread, whole wheat pasta, rice, and my weight loss just took off. I mean, that is exactly what I needed because at that time I wasn't eating sugar, the sweet stuff. I had already been on a 10-month quitting sugar journey
Wow.
after the fatty liver diagnosis. So it took me a while to find Dr. Fung, but I was still in it. I was still dedicated. And I just didn't have the full understanding how much impact the starchy foods and the grains were doing to my resistance. So when I got that key, that's when everything changed.
I want to take a quick break to say that if this is your first time here, then welcome and thank you for listening to this podcast. And whether you're new or a regular and you haven't yet rated or reviewed this podcast, could I ask you to scroll down and tap on the stars to rate this podcast and also to write a short review to let me know how this podcast is helping you in your life after sugar. I love reading your reviews. And when you rate and review this podcast, not only does it encourage me to continue making new episodes, but it also helps to share this podcast and have more people see it so that we can help more people feel better and lose weight with less sugar. So again, thank you for rating and reviewing this podcast and for spreading the word about sugar. So, if I understand right, what you got from not just Dr. Fung, but from all your readings, and is that it's not just sugar that's the problem, but it's also grains and starches, for you at least.
Yes, for me, yes. I would say I'm severely carbohydrate intolerant. And that's me. Like we're all uniquely individual. And I coach women who are like me. I coach women who, maybe they just want to break their sugar addiction because they're tired of living in brain fog and they might lose 10 pounds, It's really odd to me that people that are completely addicted to sugar have like some of us can they eat way more sugar than I ever did and they're only 15 pounds overweight.
Well, it's not just about weight, is it?
Yes, yeah, right, exactly. Like they are skinny fat, which
Right.
is what we call them. But it is amazing when we set out to break this sugar addiction. And when I was morbidly obese, I never would have called myself a sugar addict. I didn't know that.
Mm.
Like this is something through my sugar addiction training now that I have learned so much. And a lot of women come to me for coaching. Well, 99.9% of the women come to me for coaching because they want to lose weight
Uh-huh.
and they don't realize that they're completely addicted to sugar
Yeah.
and the flours and the grains. Yes.
Yes, we have kind of like an immediate problem, which is I want to lose weight. And
Yes.
it feels like we don't want to get into the whys and the wherefores of how the body
Right.
actually puts on weight. But
Yeah.
the irony is once we do learn about that, like you did, and obviously I did, then it all becomes easier.
Oh, absolutely. And that's where we can step into the freedom. That's what the freed is in the title of my book and my coaching methodology, Sugar Freed. And I hope that women understand that because once we start breaking these chains of sugar addiction and our metabolism starts healing, it is so much more than just about weight loss. I completely healed my heart, my spiritual life, my emotional life. And what I realized, Netta, in at the very root of all of that was my cravings. And they were not just physiological, they were emotional, they were spiritual. I was filling up what I describe as the holes in my soul with food to comfort and soothe. And it was completely destroying my health. And it made me feel better in the moment, but also not completely understanding insulin resistance and what was happening metabolically,
Yeah.
you know, that's where when they start learning all of this, and it's something different that we've never been taught before. It's not counting points and it's not counting calories. It's actually choosing food that's going to nourish your body and fuel your body well, and as a benefit, turn you into a fat burner, which is what women want.
Yeah.
And it's like the key. It's like the switch.
Totally, totally.
Mhm.
And so there's the like metabolic, biological, physical aspect to your healing journey. And then
Yes.
there's the more spiritual aspect, which I'd like you to get into in more detail for us.
Yeah, that happened for me shortly after I got my CPAP machine. I began waking up earlier in the morning, like before I had to get ready for work and before I had to be in the office. And I started picking up my Bible for the very first time in my life every day. And as someone that was raised in the church, I call all of those years my casual Christianity years. And I was not reading the Bible, which I developed an insatiable hunger for reading the Bible. And that's really what changed my spiritual walk and helped me heal emotionally too, because, a lot of Christians would be familiar with the verse in Romans 12 that calls for us to renew our minds. And we can do that through this spiritual, emotional, and the physical part plays a big role in it too, because when we feel better, like we just live better. And I always say we serve better. Like my passion is for coaching Christian women to feel better so they can serve better because we're called to serve people.
Mhm.
And I wasn't serving people. So yeah, that was just all part of the journey was healing physically. That was a nice bonus, but most importantly, it was healing emotionally and spiritually. And stepping into a purpose in life. I felt purposeless all those years when I lived and struggled in morbid obesity. Like I said, I never felt like I fit in. And now all of a sudden I realize, well, maybe I do have a purpose and a calling on my life. Maybe I am here for a reason.
For
So,
sure. Yeah, that's very inspiring because
mhm.
let's face it, when we don't feel good about ourselves, whether it's because we're overweight or anything else, our cravings, we're very self-centered. And I say
Yeah,
this because I was as well. But
yes.
when we actually feel better on all levels, physical, spiritual, emotional, then we have energy left over to help others and to serve others.
Yeah, exactly. The part about not fitting in is I would walk into a room full of beautiful women and I would look around and wonder, where do I fit in here? And I would think all eyes are cast on me, this morbidly obese woman. Are they watching what I'm eating? Are they judging me? And now I realize, like, on some level, maybe some of that was true, but for the most part, people are so self-focused. They're not looking at me and caring about what I'm doing. They're caring about themselves. So it's all part of a really amazing emotional healing journey, too.
It is amazing. It really is. And so what part of this journey would you say for the women that you help is physical versus emotional and spiritual, or do you not like
Mm.
cut it up like that?
Yeah, I do. I would say my sugar-free program, which I have 5 pillars in the program that I think are important to the whole person. So we focus and learn about food and fasting and feelings and fitness and fellowship. Because what I've learned in my sugar addiction training is that more women have more success when they're in fellowship and in community and in group coaching, things like that. So it is kind of equally split. I would say 33% we focus on the physical and metabolic healing. How do we do this? What's it look like practically? Emotional, we have to figure out why did we get in this place? Why do we want to get out? All of that. And why are we coping with food? How can we flip that around and renew our mind? And then spiritually, my program is very biblically based. We use a lot of scripture and rely on that for our strength and our resolve and resiliency. So yes, I would say a third, a third, a third.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah,
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 yeah. And
mhm,
it's, the physical side of what you teach is really exactly like what I teach. And
mhm.
so it's great to see that there are different aspects that serve different types of people or different needs,
Yeah,
I should say.
right,
Yeah,
exactly.
and in your case, it's more spiritual,
Mhm.
biblical for
Yeah.
Christian women, right?
Yeah, and it should not shock me at all, but it does every time a woman comes to me. She says, I never really thought to invite God into this process. And I'm like, I get it, because that was me for 30 years and nothing changed until I came home and I said that little prayer and I started digging into scripture, trying to figure out I never thought God cared about how I cared about my body, but he absolutely does. My Bible is full of instruction for that. So it wasn't until I really began doing that personally, digging and letting that fill me up and satisfying me that everything changed. And so that's my biggest secret goal for these women is to
Yeah.
is to get into their Bibles and rely on their faith for this journey.
Yeah, and together with the information, for example, about insulin and insulin sensitivity, which
Yes.
I don't suppose is mentioned as per se in the Bible, but
Right. Yeah.
it's like you've got to have that kind of biological base from which to start, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We are supposed to honor our bodies as, living temples, and God, like I said, he created us for a purpose to serve. We can't serve if we're not feeling well, and like no more sitting on the sidelines of life, right? And then the Bible also does talk about I'm also, besides being severely carbohydrate intolerant and insulin resistant and healing my metabolic health, I actually feel like I idolized food. If there was times in my life where it would be very difficult for me to give up certain foods. And, that's all part of my journey was being able to have that strength to do that and to see that there's freedom on the other side of making these healthy choices. And so all that weaves in the body, mind, and spirit, right?
Yeah, yeah, totally. And I mean, the
Mhm.
Bible doesn't outright say don't eat carbs,
Right.
because it talks about grains and honey,
Mhm.
and I
Mhm.
mean, it's not there as a weight loss
Right. Yeah.
guide.
Yes, exactly. And it's the way I invite my coaching clients to work this out in their own mind and their own journey is to figure out what God is calling them to do obediently for their health. Now, for me, I know that I honestly don't foresee myself ever reincorporating a ton of carbohydrates in my life because I am super sensitive. I've done tests for my clients to show them like how my blood sugar spiked if I ate an apple. And and I know it's because at the time I'm very insulin sensitive, so any sugar introduced is really going to
Yeah,
dramatically
same
change
here.
what's going on in my body. But it's just it's a small experiment to show with them. And I still eat fruit, I still eat berries, but apples and bananas are a little higher in sugar. So that's something that I'm not really gonna focus on right now. And maybe someday that'll change, but I've also been through a very difficult season of chronic stress. And so I'm being a little bit more vigilant about the carbohydrates that I'm eating because I know what the chronic stress is leaving its fingerprints all over my health too. So
Yeah,
I'm trying to
yeah,
balance that well
cortisol
out.
does just as much
Yes,
damage
yes,
as
exactly.
insulin, as
Mhm.
insulin. And so um, you're now so much more aware of how you individually react to certain foods and
Yes.
react to insulin.
Yes.
And when we know how we react, we can also encourage others to pay special attention to how they react and to be aware that not everyone's the same.
Exactly. Yeah, we talk about where I say that. I reiterate that in every week's group coaching call. Remember, we are all we're unique. Our metabolisms are different. Some of us are going through more chronic stress than others. Some of us are super morbidly obese. Some of us want to lose 20 pounds and get out of brain fog and sugar addiction. So it is a balancing act, but it's really interesting to see how these women show up and support each other. It's a really great experience, and I'm glad I created it as a group coaching experience because it just brings me great joy to show up with these women every single week.
Yeah, yeah. And what is your Christian program? Or what is your program called for Christian women?
Oh, okay. So my methodology is called the sugar-freed method, and I have two programs available. I have the 13-week program that helps them, journey through the first 90 days, which is a great time frame to start letting these habits form psychologically, physiologically. And then I also just introduced for 2026 a 21-day sugar-free detox where we focus on just strictly on sugar from a biological and biblical perspective. The biology, of course, of sugar, what it's doing to your health, and then the biblical, just to give us strength to make these decisions and surrender it. So, yeah, that's what I have available to help Christian women.
Very cool. Very cool. And, the fact that you exist and your program exists and your approach exists and in the same space as mine,
Yes,
we complement each other.
exactly. And that's why I love speaking to women like you, Netta.
Me too. Me too.
Yes.
Yes, because we are all different and we have different needs, but the base is the same.
Yeah. And I love that you focus in on cravings too, because I really think that that gets to the heart and the mind of the matter. And yeah, the brain is a tricky thing,
Yeah.
but we can overcome unhealthy cravings and flip them for something completely new.
Oh, totally. And thank you so much for adding to my message with yours. It's
Yeah.
very inspirational. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm happy to be here.
What a great conversation with Christine. And I really hope that her story reminded you that if you're struggling with cravings, especially sugar cravings, it's not your fault. And if you're specifically a Christian woman who's ready to break the chains of sugar addiction and heal your body, mind, and spirit, then you should check out Christine's program and her brand new 21-day sugar-free detox. The details are with the description along with this episode. And as Christine and I were saying, our approaches are similar, even if Christine's approach is more Bible-based. But what both Christine and I focus on is helping women break free from sugar cravings and stop emotional eating. And that's exactly why I created my Freedom from Cravings Formula program. Because I created this program specifically for women over 50 to help you go deeper into your relationship with food, especially sugar, and also into your relationship with yourself. And so that you can get guidance and support to help you stop emotional eating, break free from sugar cravings, slim down, and feel more in control around food. In the program, you'll get step-by-step guidance and customized support through the 5-step formula that I've developed to help you ditch the shame and embarrassment that you feel every time your emotions make you slip or fall off the wagon, so that you can live your life with more energy and fit into your favorite clothes effortlessly, feel confident in your food choices, and so that you never have to feel like you're on some kind of restrictive diet. By the time you're 50 and over, you've spent decades looking after everybody else. And now it's your turn to take care of yourself. So let's chat about your specific needs and why you want to break free from cravings. Go to aftersugarclub.com to learn more about the Freedom from Cravings Formula program and to book a free video call with me to see if the program is a good fit for you. Go to aftersugarclub.com. That's it for this week. Keep in touch and see you soon for another episode.